Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the From the Sideline podcast with Francis
and Peter. And today we're going to be recapping Week 6 and then talking about the Eagles and the 49ers specifically, then the Seahawks, and then we're going to play our guessing game that we have done for the past couple episodes now. And then finally, to cap it off, we're going to talk about college football recap, specifically our Washington Huskies. It's going to be a bit of a short one today, but hope you guys enjoy it.
All right, let's get right into it. Let's start off with a recap of last week's games. We got the Eagles losing to the Eagles losing to the Jets and the 49ers losing to the Browns, both their first losses of the seasons. So, Peter, whose loss is more disappointing in your opinion?
To me, it's got to be the Eagles, but it's not specifically because the Eagles did super bad. It's because the 49ers, they were missing their best player, Christian McCaffrey, just an absolute weapon on the field, and they only ended up losing by 2 points. With McCaffrey in and healthy the whole game, they totally win that game easily. But I do feel like with the Eagles and the Jets are definitely a better opponent to have than the Browns. But when you don't have your best player, it's always going to be hard to win, even if you're as good of a team like the 49ers. So for me, it's definitely got to be the Eagles and Jets. The Eagles had the game in the bag, and Jalen Hurts fumbled it away. Or he didn't fumble it away, but figuratively he did, I guess. He just threw a pick six. The Cowboys took the lead, and they never really looked back from there. I think it was with like a minute 30 left in the fourth quarter. It was super disappointing, and that kind of concerns me because Jalen Hurts just can't be doing that in big games if he wants to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback and he wants to be a franchise cornerstone, which he's been super great so far. And I think this is just a little rough patch, but that is a little bit concerning, and it's not very good to do those kind of things. Francis, what do you think is the least or the most disappointing loss from the 49ers or from the Eagles?
I'm going to have to disagree with Peter. I'm going to say the 49ers loss was more disappointing. The Eagles didn't even play like that bad. They've been pretty shaky for the start of the season, even though they started out 5-0. Like their schedule's been kind of easy, but then this game they played like how I expected them to play. But really, they had 4 turnovers, so that really helped them lose the game. And the Jets, they have a world class defense. I know they were missing Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed, but their secondary is still holding up well. AJ Brown is just AJ Brown, but Devontae Smith dropped some easy balls. Jalen Hurts' decision-making wasn't the best, and they lost Lane Johnson as well, so that was pretty bad. But the Jets' front seven was really getting good pressure on Jalen Hurts, so, I mean, that's not really, disappointing from the Eagles' offense if I kind of expected that. But they need to limit their turnovers, so, 2 fumbles, 2 picks. It was pretty bad. But the 49ers, definitely more disappointing in my opinion because coming into this game, I'm thinking that the 49ers easily have the best offense in the NFL. It's unstoppable. Overall, the best team. I think right now they're rated by PFF average points. I think the offense was the best and the defense was the second best. So their defense still played well, not amazing. Fred Warner just being Fred Warner, but they were low-key still getting their secondary was still getting a lot of passes completed by P.J. Walker and the Browns, but that was the more disappointing part is that they didn't even have Deshaun Watson. They had P.J. Walker, who, if he was a starting quarterback, he probably would be the worst starting quarterback in the NFL if he actually started. So having P.J. Walker as their starting quarterback, and then him throwing to just Amari Cooper and Kareem Hunt and Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford really did a big blow to the 49ers defense, and also the 49ers offense. I know they were missing Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey for most of the game, but this really showed the 49ers offense true colors because Christian McCaffrey, when they had Christian McCaffrey at the start of the game, the Browns defense couldn't really stop them. Once Christian McCaffrey went out, they were getting stopped every single drive. This really showed Brock Purdy's true colors and showed that he's not actually an elite quarterback, and it's just a system. And also, they still had Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle, so I mean, they still should have been producing. So the 49ers were definitely more disappointing to me because without Christian McCaffrey, their offense really isn't anything because Brock Purdy can't lead them to any success, and Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle really just aren't those receiving guys that you're looking for.
All right, guys, moving on. We have a breaking news announcement. Anthony Richardson has decided to get season-ending shoulder surgery, and he's now out for the season. Like I just said, that was a little redundant. But, he was originally going to be out 4 to 8 weeks, but I think the real thing that this does is that it shows that the Colts are going to get probably a top 5 pick. Minshew's not a bad quarterback, but Anthony Richardson, there's a reason he's a top 3 pick. Or a top 5 pick. I mean, he was the 4th pick. But he's an athletic specimen. He's 6'5". He can run the ball. He can throw it super far. And Gardner Minshew just can't do all those things as well as Richardson can. So they are going to get a high draft pick next year. But I do wonder if this surgery will hinder his throwing power and maybe his athleticism, because it is a big surgery to get on your AC joint, I think it was, which shows that he actually was in a lot of pain. And if he decided to play through it, I think it would have been worse in the long run. So this is probably a pretty good move for him in the long term, but it does suck because it pretty much I don't even know what I was going for there, but it pretty much ends the Colts season right here. So now they're just playing for a draft pick. So that was just a brief little service announcement. But Francis, we're going to be moving on to our next topic. What were some of your biggest takeaways from that Seahawks loss over the Bengals?
My biggest takeaway is that Geno Smith, while still an above-average quarterback, some of his decision-making, I'm seeing spurts of what I saw from when he was the backup to Russell Wilson, when I really didn't like him. He stays in the pocket too much. He's too indecisive. He stares down his reads. He stays in the pocket, so when he gets pressured, he doesn't escape the pocket. He doesn't have good footwork in the pocket. He just stays in there, and then he just holds on to the ball for too long. So he ends up getting sacked a lot or pressured, and then leads to incompletions or tackles for loss. So Geno Smith really needs to work on that. Like, for the most part, we didn't even play that bad. Our defense played fine. Devin Witherspoon, Tariq Woolen, and Trey Brown, all 3 played really well. And then our front 7 played all right, I guess. Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs got some good hits. But just for the most part, I think the offense was the biggest key to this game. Scoring only 13 points is really not going to win you any games. Kenneth Walker still played fine. Him and Zach Charbonnet are looking very promising as a backfield. But mostly it's just Geno Smith for me at the end of the day and the offensive line. They just need to get healthy. Like Abraham Lucas, when he comes back, our offense is going to look a lot better. How about you, Peter?
I totally agree with Francis here. I think Kenneth was super good, but the one thing I would say he has to work on is definitely just running more north and south, because I always feel like he's backtracking to try and gain more yardage in the long run, but it never actually, or very rarely actually, works out. So he does lose out on a lot of yards for that. But that's just kind of nitpicking. He's a great running back, and Charbonnet and him are a great 1-2 punch. But as for Geno, staring down his reads and those throws that he was making, they were just horrible. He's taking so many sacks. He's just seems kind of like he's unaware in the pocket. He doesn't know when he's going to get sacked. He can't really sense the pressure, which is very bad for a quarterback to have. And I think this was a really concerning game for Geno. It maybe will change. I mean, I know it's a big take, but it'll maybe change the Seahawks' opinions on him, and maybe they'll draft a quarterback in the upcoming years, because he just he didn't look like a good quarterback out there. He was taking sacks, and when he was like sensing the pressure, he would just run backwards and take another sack, and he wouldn't actually end up doing anything with the play, which was super concerning for a quarterback that's supposed to be top 10, that they just paid big money. It's just not really a good look. As for the defense, I think they're all right. Devin Witherspoon's, he's the defensive rookie of the year. I don't think it's even close. I think Francis agrees. But as for Tariq Woolen, I think he's definitely taken a step down since last year, his great rookie year. He was playing, I do think he might be getting a little too much hate from Seahawks fans, but he isn't playing super good. I don't see that speed. I don't see that lockdown coverage that he used to have last year. Even though Jamar Chase or T. Higgins didn't get a touchdown, he did allow that touchdown to that one rookie. I forget his name. But it's definitely been a down year for Woolen. I think he's going to pick it up somewhat, but I don't think he's going to get back to that top tier rookie form this year. But I feel like with some work in the offseason, he can definitely get back to where he was and even better.
All right, it's game time now. So off of our last episode, I had 8 points. Peter had 4. My lock was the Lions over Panthers. I got that right. My 2 underdogs were Jets over Broncos and Titans over Colts. I only got 1 right. Peter, his lock was Ravens over Steelers. He got that wrong. And then his 2 underdogs were Saints over Pats or Rams over Eagles. He only got 1 right. So I end up gaining 4 points. I end up gaining 3 points, and Peter ends up losing 1 point. So Peter's at 3, and I'm at 11. So I'm going to start off with my picks. My first pick, my lock. I'm going to root for my team. I'm going to root for the Seahawks. Going to go Seahawks over Cardinals. Seahawks are favored in this game. Cardinals coming into the season projected one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the NFL without Kyler Murray. Seahawks are looking for a bounce-back game against an easy team here. Easily can be the Seahawks here. My first underdog is going to be Giants over the Commanders. Honestly, I just think the Giants are not favored because they're 1-5, but the Giants, I think we forget last year what they did. They went to the second round of the playoffs, beating out the Vikings in the first round. I know they're 1-5, but we've seen this team with success. We've seen their head coach win Coach of the Year in Brian Daboll, and we know the Commanders don't have a strong quarterback. We know they don't have a strong offense, and even their defense itself, like they have rookie cornerbacks, Emmanuel Forbes, they have Brian Branch. They just have a bunch of rookie young secondaries, and then front seven is strong, but you know what? Give me the Giants. We're looking at a Saquon Barkley resurgence. We're looking at a Daniel Jones comeback game. I'm liking the Giants in this odds here over the Commanders. And then my second underdog, give me the Dolphins over the Eagles. A little bit of a risky pick, but the Eagles, like I said before, they've been looking shaky all season, and they just lost to the Jets. The Dolphins might not have as good of a defense as the Jets, but their offense is much better. We saw them score 70 points against the Broncos, so I like the Dolphins' offense against the Eagles' defense here. And I just think it's going to be a shootout, but I think the Dolphins are going to come out on top. Let me see your picks, Peter.
Okay, so for my lock, I have the Bills over Patriots. I know Francis would have picked this if he didn't pick the Seahawks because they're our team, obviously. But, this is a surefire lock. The Patriots have looked horrible. They lost 40-something to 0. That was pretty bad. And then the Bills, people forget that they pretty much manhandled the Dolphins. So this isn't even close for me. I think the spread's like 8.5 for the Bills, and I think they're easily going to cover it. And then for my first upset, I have the Lions over the Ravens. The Ravens actually lost to the Steelers, who I think you guys heard this in the last episode. I'm not a big believer in. It didn't work out for me, obviously, but I'm still not a big believer in the Steelers, so now I'm just, I guess, a Ravens not believer. I don't think they're a complete team. Zay Flowers is a great wide receiver 1, but their team just isn't really complete. They have a lot of super skillful players, Roquan Smith, Lamar, Zay, Mark Andrews, but their team doesn't really work super well together, in my opinion. So I'm going to go with the Lions. They're 5-1. Their only losses to the Seahawks in a game that they really could have won. I personally don't know how the Ravens are favored in this game. So going to go with the Lions there. And then Colts over Browns is my last upset. I know Anthony Richardson is out for the season, like we just talked about, and I wasn't going to pick this game, but Francis picked the upset that I wanted, the Commanders over the Giants, which was pretty tough. But, I got to pick another upset. You got to move on. So I decided to go with the Colts over the Browns, which I could definitely see this happening. Gardner Minshew's he's a good quarterback. I think we all know that. He should definitely be a starter in this league, low end. But I don't know how he's just sat as a backup for this long. So I think he can definitely win. P.J. Walker, as Francis said earlier, he's a pretty bad quarterback. If he was a starter, he'd be the worst in the league. And quarterback is the most important on an NFL football team. The Colts are getting Jonathan Taylor back up to full to full health and full speed. So I feel like this is the first game where they're going to really utilize him fully and utilize him to his best ability. So I'm predicting a Jonathan Taylor breakout game, and the Browns just collapse under P.J. Walker at quarterback. Amari Cooper's not going to get the ball as much. It's just not going to be super great for them. So going to go with the Colts there. Yeah, those are my picks.
All right, let's wrap this episode up with UW Huskies defeating the Oregon Ducks in the biggest game of the season, now number 5 ranked in the AP poll. Peter, give me your thoughts and your takeaways from this game.
So I was at the game, and the atmosphere is absolutely electric, as you guys have probably seen on the internet, or if you guys were at the game yourselves. It was insane. The Husky Stadium crowd is insane. Such a great backdrop, storming the field after the win. But as for the actual game, it was a statement win for the Washington Huskies. They were not playing well in that third quarter, or in the middle to late part of the third quarter, and then most of the fourth quarter until the end, when they just decided to lock in on defense and then get the ball to their best player, Michael Penix Jr., and let him decide what to do. Just kind of chuck it up, deliver a perfect throw to his best receiver, the second best receiver in the country, Rome Odunze, just goes up and gets it. Odunze looked great the entire game. Penix didn't even have his best option, or a second best option, who is still probably, like, last year they were wide receiver 1A and 1B, Jalen McMillan. McMillan got hurt early. Penix, it took him a little while to adjust, but Polk stepped up super well. And then even while not converting on that fourth down at the 1-yard line, which was pretty brutal, they fought back. They never gave up on the game. And when they did finally get the chance to win it, Penix went and he won it for them. He's the Heisman Trophy front runner easily right now. And my prediction is that he's totally going to win it this year. He's going to run away with it, and the Huskies are going to make the college football playoff. Oregon is their hardest game on the schedule, besides from the Pac-12 championship, probably. I think they're going to destroy USC, who got destroyed by Notre Dame and almost lost to Arizona. They're going to beat Wazoo. Oregon State and Utah are the two tough games. But I think they got them. I think they're going to win. Their offense will just overpower both of those teams. And I think the Huskies are going to be undefeated this year. I really do. It was just such a statement win for them. It was a great game. Even though they didn't play their best on both sides of the ball, they proved that they're such a great team because they adapted and they changed their ideas, and they weren't just they didn't have tunnel vision, and they expanded and found a way to win that game. And it was just truly super cool to see. And I started on the field myself. I'll always remember that game as a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I think the Huskies should be ranked 4th at this point. I don't know why Florida State is there after almost losing to Boston College, but yeah, the Huskies are college football playoff bound.
Completely agree, Peter. UW is for sure officially a playoff team now. I don't know what they're doing, putting them at number 5. They're definitely better than Florida State. I don't know what Florida State did to prove that they're a top 4 team, except for beat LSU, which we've seen as a very weak team. I got them better than Penn State. Glad they see that now. And then also, like, Georgia is not a good number 1 team. Georgia's not a number 1 team. I think Michigan should be number 1. I think UW is number 2 or 3, right behind Michigan and Georgia. And then I got, Florida State at 5. But UW just has looked like a college football playoff team. I mean, it's looking like the second time they're going to go to the playoffs, okay? This team is honestly looking better than the Jake Browning, John Ross year. The offense is just electric. Michael Penix is probably the best quarterback in UW history at this point. So, actually, not probably. He for sure is. This game was such a statement. I mean, Oregon, they played well, but UW with the comeback, it really just showed how clutch this offense is and how clutch Michael Penix actually is, and how he should actually be an NFL top 10 pick. But, I mean, I don't really have to say anything more. Peter pretty much said it all. But, yeah, UW's offense, their defense, it wasn't really that much of a statement game for them, but the offense just is incredible. So that's all I got to say. So that's going to wrap up this episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure you listen to our other episodes and hit the follow button.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. Tune in to all our other episodes, and just remember to hit that follow button. See you guys.